Good afternoon, everyone. I am Danielle Bess, and welcome to our monthly webinar on nursing home abuse and neglect. And today we're going to be talking about how to choose a safe nursing home. I'm an attorney at South Atlanta Injury Lawyers, where we represent families and victims of nursing home abuse. Along with myself, I have a law partner, Terry Fields, who is on the webinar also. And so we are going to present information that we believe you can use when you are trying to find a safe nursing home for your family members. And if you have any questions, please drop your questions in the chat, and we are happy to respond to any questions that you have. So in trying to determine how to choose a safe nursing home for your loved one, the most important thing for you to do is to start with an assessment of the type of care that your loved one is going to need. And the type of care will determine the type of facility that your loved one needs. So we talk a lot about nursing homes, but there are several different types of care facilities that your nursing home, that your loved one could be a resident of. So first, we have a skilled nursing home facility where they receive full-time nursing care. But there are also rehabilitation facilities. So if your loved one is recovering from a surgery or they're recovering from a fall and they're expected to make a recovery, they could go to a rehabilitation care facility for a period of time. And the expectation is that they would not be there long term. Also, there are memory care facilities for people who are suffering from dementia. These memory care facilities provide specialized care for people who may need specific types of care because of their dementia. And then there's also in-home health care. And in-home health care could be a nurse or an aide coming once a day or coming more often, and that person could be assisting with other services that the loved one is receiving in the home. But it is an option for someone who may not need the same intensity of care as someone who has a long-term illness and they are completely dependent on full-time nursing care. Now, once you assess the type of facility that your loved one needs, if you determine that they need a nursing home, there are several ways that we would suggest you go about determining if a specific nursing home is the best facility for your loved one. And there are resources that the federal government provides. Specifically, Medicare provides a nursing home compare website where you can go to review and compare facilities based on inspections, staffing levels, and quality measures. So this gives you a lot of data about specific nursing homes. And over on the right, this is a picture of the actual website. And you are able to put in your location, either by an address, by a zip code, or city and state. And if you have a specific facility in mind, you are also able to put in the name of the facility. This website also allows you to check other information about the facility. So it is a great tool and really a starting point for you to learn more about the facility. You will get information about inspections and other information that could be very crucial in determining whether it's the best facility for your loved one. In addition to the federal resources, there are also state resources. And the state resources in the state of Georgia, and I believe most states will have something similar. The state health department also has inspection reports and records of violations and complaints. And so this is a picture of the Georgia website that you would go to. So you can find a licensed facility, you can search inspection reports, and you can verify a license. So if you have concerns or questions about a facility that your loved one is in, this is the website that you should go to get additional information. And when you're looking at this information, you want to know if the facility has failed inspections, if they have a chronic history of failing inspections. So it may not be unusual that a facility fails an inspection occasionally, but are there repeated problems? And if so, you want to pay careful attention to that before placing your loved one in the facility. Also, we suggest that you use Google. Google reviews will tell you a lot about what's going on in a facility. So I pulled this Google review of a local nursing home. It had 132 reviews, and it has what I would consider a pretty low score, a score of 2.4. And looking at the comments that were left by the reviewers, it gives you some insight into what's going on in this facility. They talk about the quality of the staff in the Google reviews. They talk about items missing from their loved one's room. So you can see the good, the bad, the ugly in the Google reviews. And I personally use Google reviews for just about anything before staying at a hotel. It can also be a very important tool for determining where to send your loved one, especially if they're going to be in a facility for a long period of time. We also suggest that you visit multiple facilities, tour the facilities, go in person. Sometimes you will be offered virtual visits, but we suggest that you do an in-person visit so that you can do a real-time evaluation of the facility. You want to observe the environment. You want to look for the safety features that they have. You want to check for cleanliness and odors. And you want to observe residents and staff. You want to see what their demeanor is, how they interact with the patients who are in the facility, with the residents who are in the facility. And here are some questions that we suggest you ask. First and foremost, staffing levels. If the staffing level is not up to par, that is a red flag that this facility is not going to be able to provide a high quality of care for your loved one. The state can also provide you with information about staffing levels at facilities. It is our experience that problems arise, injuries occur when the staffing level is subpar. So this is a very important thing for you to look for. And you also want to see if you can find out if there's a lot of turnover at the facility. If you have the opportunity to speak to residents who are in the facility, you should absolutely take advantage of that. And you want to know what the staffing levels are, nights and weekends, and you want to make sure that they have adequate staff at all times. You also want to inquire about training and qualifications of staff. Are they trained in specialized care? Do they have a high turnover rate? These are questions that you want to ask to get a better feel for what is happening at the facility. You also want to find out about their emergency procedures and their safety protocols. What happens if your loved one has a medical emergency? Are the staff members equipped to handle the emergency? Will they need to call 911 to get outside assistance? What is their fire and safety plan? I'm here in Georgia. We are in the process of preparing for potential bad weather from a hurricane. Does the facility have a plan in place for bad weather? These are, really important questions. How do they handle resident falls? What about wandering for those people with dementia and memory issues? So these safety and emergency protocols can be vital in keeping your loved ones safe in case there is some unforeseen circumstance. And you also want to know how they communicate with you and your loved one. I have a loved one who is in a long-term care facility, and he is in a different state. For the past 3 weeks, every single day, I've received a automated call from the facility because they've had a COVID breakout. And so that call from the facility tells us every day how many new people have tested positive for COVID, residents as well as staff. This is a way for us to know what's going on. Although I talk to my loved one on an almost daily basis, sometimes you don't have the benefit of being able to talk to your loved one, due to their medical condition. They may not be able to relay information to you. So how is that facility going to communicate with you? So that's one of the things that you want to be very clear about before placing your loved one in a facility. Number 4, what are the healthcare services available on site, and how do they handle hospital transfers? Sometimes in cases that we see that when our client is transferred from the facility to the hospital, all the necessary information is not being transferred in a timely manner. And it's essential for that to happen so that your loved one can receive the adequate care and the immediate care that they need. And finally, activities and socialization. What is your loved one doing on a daily basis? Long-term care facilities are where our residents go to live. And part of living is being engaged with other people, having activities to engage in, having therapy options. We want people, our loved ones, to be socially active. And so you want to find out what the facility offers. Do they charge more for your loved one to be involved in activities? And also, it can be a red flag if you learn that there are no activities, that they don't have any therapeutic options for your loved one. It may not be the best facility for your loved one to go to if they don't have those types of options. Whenever you're evaluating a facility, you also want to check the safety and security measures. So this is so important because we are entrusting our loved one with these facilities, and we want to make sure that they are being taken care of properly. So do they have surveillance cameras? Do they have secured entrances? Can anyone just walk into the facility at any time? Do people have to check in? Do they request ID when the person has to check in? I remember years ago, before COVID, I would go to a nursing home facility where I had a meeting. It was a community meeting. And this place did not have any type of security. I would walk through the door. No one would ask me, who are you? Where are you going? Why are you here? And I thought that was odd at the time. Since COVID, I have noticed that that has changed significantly. Now facilities have you sign in. They want to know why you're there, who you're going to see. Some ask for ID, and you need to be able to evaluate that. Number 2, you need to review their policies for infection control. We all had a huge wake-up call with COVID-19, but there are other infections that can rapidly spread throughout a facility and can cause incredible harm to residents. The flu is one. The flu can be deadly in residents. Is the facility testing staff and residents for illness? If one person contracts the flu or COVID, what is the protocol for ensuring it does not spread throughout the facility? And unfortunately, in this age, there are some even more serious infections like staph infections that you need to be aware of. And you need to know what the policy is for the facility. How are they going to contact you? How are they going to let you know what's going on? And finally, you want to investigate how they manage medication, how they prevent falls, and if they have any special safety measures for people with cognitive impairments. So fall prevention is one of the most essential areas that you want to investigate, because a fall in a person who is older can often be deadly. Unfortunately, we have clients, families whose loved one was in a facility, they fall, they break their hip, and in many ways, a broken hip can really be a fatal incident, although the person, is not immediately, it doesn't immediately cause the person to be deceased. And if your loved one falls within a quick period of time, you want to be very alert to what they're going to do to prevent future falls. And you may want to take action after the first fall. We have had several cases in our office where the client was in the facility for a very short period of time. In one case that I'm thinking about, the client had been in the facility for only 3 days. And within that 3-day period, they fell. Well, the first fall, the facility described it as not being very serious. Well, within the next 7 days, the client fell a second time. And the second fall was a lot more serious, that caused very traumatic injuries to the client. So you want to be aware of what the fall protocol is for your loved one. And the initial screening when your client is admitted to the facility should include an assessment as far as fall prevention. And it should also include what they're going to do to prevent any falls. Now, when you're selecting a facility, you also want to evaluate the legal and financial aspects. What is the licensing and certifications? You want to confirm that the facility is licensed by the state and certified by Medicare and Medicaid. And if you go to the website that I showed you earlier in the state of Georgia, you can confirm the licensing. You want to make sure you understand all the costs. You want to review the contract very carefully. One of the things most nursing homes are going to present you with when you receive a contract is an arbitration agreement. And the arbitration agreement is an agreement where you or your loved one agrees to waive the ability to sue the facility in court if something happens. These arbitration agreements can prevent you from having your claim heard before a judge or a jury. And a facility cannot prevent you from coming to the facility because you refuse to sign the arbitration agreement. And you need to think very carefully about whether or not to sign it. If you do sign it, you actually have 30 days in which you can revoke that. But our suggestion is always not to sign arbitration agreements. It causes litigation to be a lot more costly. And also you're not able to get the full value or full strength of the law if you have to go through an arbitration. And some of you may have heard about a big company recently was in the news because they were trying to enforce an arbitration agreement against their users. And there was a lot of outcry. And like I explained, the reason there's a lot of outcry with arbitration agreements is because they really are detrimental to the consumer. And finally, you want to find out what is the complaint and grievance procedures? How do they handle them? If a family member or resident has a complaint, what are the steps in resolving whatever the issues are? And you want to check whether they have a history of litigation or significant grievances. Lawsuits are public information. And you can sometimes check the county where the facility is located to see if there are any lawsuits that have been filed against the facility. Arbitration agreements are private. It's another reason why we don't like them, because we don't have access to the information about what happened and how they were resolved. But if there are a lot of litigation, a lot of lawsuits against the facility, it is a huge red flag that there is something going on that's not in the best interest of the residents at the facility. Now, if your loved one is in a facility and you need to report abuse, we suggest you start with contacting Adult Protective Services if you're in the state of Georgia. They have a hotline that you can call. They investigate allegations and they take necessary actions to protect vulnerable adults. You can also contact the Georgia Department of Community Health. This agency oversees nursing homes and ensures compliance with state and federal regulations. The complaints can lead to investigations and penalties against the facility. And even though they can take a long time to investigate, it's important that you do file complaints with them, because if they start to see a pattern of complaints, it may push the one complaint further to the top for a quicker investigation. There are also ways that you can get support, and that's primarily through the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. It provides assistance to residents and families dealing with nursing home issues. It's someone who can advocate for you and help mediate disputes for residents. So that's something you should consider also. So that takes me to the end of our webinar. I am happy to answer any questions. Let me see if I can check the chat. But if you have any questions and you want to come off mute, please come off mute. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. And we appreciate you joining us today. Our next webinar is going to be on October 23rd, 2024 at 11:30 a.m. And I'm not going to promise this is going to be the topic. I think we actually have a different topic in regards to infections and what to look out for if your loved one has an infection in their facility. But we hope that you can join us next time. And if you have any questions, we are absolutely happy to answer your questions. And again, I'm Danielle Bess, and we appreciate you being here today. All right. Well, thank you all so much. This concludes our presentation.